The following is a video regarding the article, "If you hear someone getting harassed in an online video game, don't stay silent." Just as a disclaimer, right away, this video is not intended to demean Kotaku or Cecilia D'Anastasio, the author of the article, in any way. Kotaku is actually my go-to site for news and all that kind of stuff, and I think they have a very good writing staff and put out very quality articles, except this one. So this article left a very bad taste in my mouth, and the message goes against just about everything that social justice systems in video games are trying to accomplish these days to combat toxicity in video games. So the author of this article talks about how toxicity and harassment is affecting her enjoyment of the popular team-based shooter Overwatch. She states the following: "Players' rampant and unchecked cruelty and sexist commentary are preventing me and others from enjoying our favorite game, a first-person shooter with twice the female user base as any other. And I want to be clear about something: when it comes to harassment in online gaming, silence is complicity. As long as developers are slow to address toxicity, it is on a game's player base to stomp out hatred if they don't want it there. Speak up, tell that asshole to sit down." Let me first start off by saying that this is exactly what you should never ever do. Toxicity and harassment is amplified when you interact with the attacker. Silence is actually your best weapon. Trolls and assholes online act out because they want vindication, attention, a release from their own inner hatred by demeaning other people. In their eyes, arguing with other people and putting them down gives them just a twisted sense and form of self-justification. They want to hurt, they want to fight, and they want your response most of all. I understand that harassment is a very tender subject, and I confide in the author of this article, but suggesting that your teammates speak up is only going to lead to more aggravation and fighting. The internet is full of assholes, we know that, but the best way to deal with them is to mute them, and that's what that mute button is for. The more attention these people get, the more they lash out, so the suggestions in this article would only make the issue actually worse. That's because you don't change behavior while it's going on. You can't. When an individual is under duress and acting out, they are not in a state of mind where they can see reason and be mediated with. Very few people on Earth are capable of coming to a moment of clarity when they are irate. When we are in a heightened state of trauma, our brain functions differently. We can't be reasoned with. Harassers can't calm down. The only calming agent is when that person comes to the realization himself or herself that he or she is in the wrong. That person is only going to arrive at that conclusion when they detach from the game and walk away, and people don't do that unless they get shut out when they get silenced by your silence. The best way to deal with toxicity in games is through incentives and punishment, and that is the responsibility of video game companies, not players. Harassment's never going to stop, but it can be controlled by promoting people not to do it, not to confront them. It's about trying to change and reward good behavior, and you do that by teaching through incentives, not confrontation as this article suggests. The best part about incentives is that failing to acquire them can result in self-regret with some people, which is something that game makers lean on to fight against toxicity. But the worst part about all of this is that the author's recommendations of asking people to confront the attacker is in fact bullying them into submission. There will always be assholes in online games, but who sanctions it are the indifferent or cowardly bystanders who stay silent while strangers harass those of us who are just trying to enjoy the game. Teammates who hear hatred are the first line of defense for harassed players. Permissiveness is tacit approval of this behavior. If I can be honest, I'm pretty appalled that these sentences have been approved for publication by Kotaku's staff. Calling people who don't speak up cowardly bystanders is a complete generalization and in fact harassment itself. Perhaps your silent teammates are very nice people but have muted the harasser for one, or maybe they are smart enough to understand that feeding the trolls is the quickest way to instigate even more fighting. The author is generalizing her silent teammates, whom she knows nothing about, into a derogatory category simply to support her argument. The second part of this statement, permissiveness is tacit approval of this behavior, is also nothing short of bad character. Being silent is not being tolerant or accepting towards toxicity, it's just being silent. The first and only step to approving toxicity is to go on the record and say that toxicity is okay, and you can't do that if you're silent. That's like saying if I'm silent when I see a father yell at a baby that I approve maltreating babies. Perhaps people know that many things in life are unavoidable, harassment being one of them. We just have to do everything possible to prevent it, and that doesn't happen with confrontation. I understand that toxicity and harassment sucks. People get hurt and that's not okay, but it's something that will never go away entirely. But the best weapon against it is silence. Show them that they mean nothing to you. Cecilia, I understand your frustration, but asking people to tell that asshole to sit down is only fighting fire with fire, and fire spreads. You know, in life, there's just certain things that suck. Harassment is definitely one of them, but it's never going to go away, and you can't bark orders at people and make them submit to confrontation because we all know that's not the cure. Let's try to change that behavior by promoting incentive systems in games. Those are the things that teach people to refrain from bad behavior. That, and a seminar from Tony Robbins, but hey, that shit ain't free. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoy the content I put out here on this channel, feel free to subscribe to Downward Thrust and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/downwardthrust. You guys have a kick-ass day, and we'll see you probably in a few days for the next video.